Hello, my name is Carlos Reyes, and today I'm going to present to you my understanding of hidden pollution exchange between ocean and groundwater revealed. This is for my first presentation for Professor Dr. Cassandra Cortet for the institution of Lynn University. On this image, we could appreciate the research created the first ever map of previously hidden underground floats of water connecting fresh groundwater supplies beneath the contiguous United States with seawater in the oceans. The image shows 20% of the contiguous U.S. coastline was found to be susceptible to land to sea or sea to land water contamination. The analysts on this research help manage better plan strategies for coastal land development and groundwater management to preserve water quality. This research was published in August 4, 2016 by Ohio State University by the assistant professor Audrey Sawyer with the assistance of NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratories. As we can see in this image, the blue lines are the vulnerable to the ocean pollution that are shown in the Pacific Ocean, Gulf of Mexico, and on the Atlantic Ocean. Also, we could see the vulnerability of saltwater invasion. There's a high concentration between San Francisco and Los Angeles in the Gulf of Mexico and small spots throughout South Florida and the Atlantic Ocean lines. Some spots also show us here on this image how we have vulnerability on both. This is on this section right here, and right over here along the Long Island coastline. With the collaboration of NASA, they were able to save lots of costly studies on the field. Imagine the hours that you have to go out and go in the water and do the survey across the coastline. This is a very long-term project that, with the assistance of computer data and the team of NASA, they were able to save many hours on field studies. This study identified 12% of the continent of the USA coastline, including the northern coast of the Mississippi to the Florida Panhandle, northern Atlantic coast, and Pacific northern, where the once hidden drainage system make the ocean most susceptible to freshwater contamination from septic tanks and fertilizer runoff. In contrast, another 9% of coastline, including southeastern Florida, southeastern California, and Long Island, are especially susceptible to the opposite threat. Contamination to sea, to land. The study found in this area saltwater intrudes inland and infiltrate the fresh groundwater supply. Now I would like to introduce you to the submarine groundwater discharge. In the next slide, we could identify submarine groundwater discharge. Submarine groundwater discharge, abbreviated SGD, is an ambiguous coastal process that is driven by the composites of climatologic, hydrogeologic, and oceanographic process. The submarine groundwater discharge, abbreviated SGD, is an ambiguous coastal process that is driven by a composite of climatologic, hydrogeologic, and oceanographic process. Many years ago, scientists were not concerned about the submarine groundwater discharge. With the increase of population, density, and changing of agriculture, the coastal areas have led to release of nutrients and other contaminants into the coastal environment from fertilizer use, industrial practices, and water waste discharge. These nutrients release have led the eutrophication in many coastal waters that led many scientists concerned, and this was the reason this research was originated, to identify how we could manage better and plan better for a future environment. Now I would like to take you to the next slide where we could enjoy Miss Layer. On this slide, we could actually admire Miss Layer sampling contaminants from the sea bottom and she's also performing a saltwater render drinking water, where is the most issue throughout the United States with the saltwater rendered drinking water? Well, as we could see during the coastline earlier, it was most shown in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. As we all know, water is life, and without water there is no life. However, water sampling is a very unique process that it was conducted by Ms. Sayer to deliver to the public the nutrients and contaminants provided along the coast. She was able to determine the pollution detection and bacteria counts that is part of our water testing. The tests were conducted with the use of topographic data resources. Topographic data are information about the elevation of the surface of the earth. Two such data types are commonly used with geopads. The first are data that represent the information typically found on a topographic quadrangle map, such as contour lines, road, stream, railroad, town, etc. For simplicity, this first category of data will be referred to as digital topography map data. The second are grids of data, for which each cell in the grid represents the elevation and certain point on the earth. These data are commonly referred to as digital elevation model. On the left hand side, we could see the image 1 that is a digital topographic map data. It exists for the United States in both vector, point, line, and polygons, and raster image format. The vector topography data are called digital lines graph, while the raster topography data are called digital raster graphics. Availability of each are described below. Digital elevation model data are grid representation of the surface of the earth where each pixel in the grid contains an elevation value. Resolution of DEM is often reported in the radian measurement, such as arc second. DEM is an abbreviation for Digital Elevation Model. NASA Jet Propulsion Lab is managed by the California Institute of Technology. It is federally funded with the assistance of NASA Field Center located in La Cañada Fringed, California, and Pasadena, California, United States. The laboratories provide projects from Mars science, Mars exploration, studies of Jupiter, telescopes, space telescopes, and others. The assistance by NASA Jet Propulsion Lab was in collaboration with the Earth Science. The research also shows how Florida had constructed many miles of canals that actually have helped the irrigation and the recreation of the land. The study found that the canals capture water that will otherwise flow on the ground and out to the sea. The Gulf Coast has many canals. We could see this information on the next slide. The Florida Canal provides critical information on this research. How the development of this canal was a very good plan managed by the local counties. These strategies that were developed in Florida are actually being studied right now to see how they're gonna bring it throughout the world to help the ecosystem. The assistance of the canal also decreased submarine groundwater drainage in the coastal region where the population is growing, which increases the likelihood of saltwater intrusion. This is why the professor is looking forward for other people to integrate these methods across other parts of the world and also in the United States.